to rise, teaching me how to be wise. Temple child word burn bright, sacred herb brings
Hello,
us
brothers and
sight.
sisters, and welcome to another Temple 420 Bible study. I've sent out invites, so we never know who will show up. And Victoria Rose is here with me today. Threw up one of our encouragement images here today. Nevertheless, Yahweh, your Elohim, will not hearken unto Balaam, but Yahweh your Elohim will turn the curse into blessing into you, because Yahweh, your Elohim, loved you. Deuteronomy 23:5. So Yahweh will turn around curses and make bad things become good and get better. I think we kind of spoke about that even in last session, how there's hills and highs and lows, and God's always guiding you along.
Amen.
I'll start out here today with a prayer. Dear Almighty Yahweh, thank you for the blessings you give us. Thank you for those who are watching our video and watching with us. Thank you for guiding them to your word and help them with the understanding that comes with things. Help bring the curses that people put on them to come out to be good things, so they go for your praise. Help bless us through this evening and all those watching through the time that they have ahead of them. And watch us through this study and help us go the paths and hear things that you want us to hear. Amen.
Amen.
I think for some interesting stuff here, Greg was talking about that he was going through Judith and reading what Judith had to say.
Okay.
That would be an interesting thing to see what we have here in Judith. I wish I knew which reference it was, but there is a reference to Judith. And to my understanding, it was taken out when they cleared off some of the other ones, like the Maccabees are in like the Catholic one and in some other ones, but some reason we don't have those in our modern 66 Bibles unless you're Catholic or you're Ethiopian, or one of the ones that have those special ones. Which that's the craziest one with Maccabees. I went through Maccabees with a reading too, and it's wild because that's when the Romans started taking over Jerusalem and causing trouble with Jerusalem and trying to get them out of their faith. I actually got a ring for them too. That's when Judas Maccabees stood up, kept Israel strong through that time. And
that's awesome.
Wasn't going to go into that Jewish or that Greek way, which gets me because now the Catholics took it over most part, and it's back to the Greek way then. Somebody didn't learn. Judith.
So we're reading Judith. Okay.
Yeah, she was also another one of the prophetesses here.
I wonder if there's a way I can pull up my Bible while I'm reading that. Well, except I don't think there's Judith in my Bible, right? You said it wasn't in the 66.
Yeah, it's been taken out of most of them.
Okay. You think it's written more like the New Testament or like the Old?
I think it's more written like the Old, but it seems maybe a little bit newer.
Okay.
And
closer to when Jesus was coming, or?
I don't know. I was trying to see here what year it was. Maybe.
I'm sure we'll find out if we read it.
Right.
Yeah.
too with it. If you have anybody's interested. It says closer to the time of the Maccabees. And then when I'm looking up a quick summary here too, summary maybe people will be interested too if they hear it and like, oh, that could be interesting. Because it's one of the prophetesses here. She's the heroine of the Book of Judith, which is found in the Apocrypha and the Deuterocanonical books, which are actually in the Catholic Bibles and the Orthodox Bibles. But it's not in the Jewish Tanakh or the Protestant canon, which we would be reading most the Protestant canon.
Okay.
It's when Israel is under threat from the Assyrian general Holofernes, who is the town of Bethra, and the people are starving on the brink of surrender. And Judith, a devout, wealthy, and beautiful widow who lives in Bethula, is faithful to Yahweh, observing the Torah carefully. By doing her fasting, has modesty and ritual purity. Seeing her people's despair, Judith courageously decides to act. She dresses finely, leaves the city, and pretends to defect to the Assyrian camp. And then gaining Hopneri's trust, she's invited to a banquet where he becomes drunk, and Judith seizes the opportunity, prays for strength, and beheads him with his own sword. In the aftermath, she brings his head back to her people, inspiring them to attack, and the Assyrians panic without their leader, leaving Israel to victory. So Judith is celebrated as a model of faith, courage, and cunning. She remains unmarried afterward, dedicating her life to Yahweh.
Whoa.
So another one of those really, really important ones when they're like, hey, no important women in the Bible, it's all a patriarchy. Like, you guys are crazy.
For sure.
Another one that Israel wouldn't exist.
Man, she was like the female version of David, like slaying somebody for Israel.
Always gets me confused because I've heard her brought up, but then I can't think of the one too. There's the one also that the lady does that, and then she drives the stake through the guy's head and kills him, and he's taken care of, so Israel can continue to exist as well. Judith 1:1. So Axophad, the king of the Medes, subjugated the nations under his authority, and he built a powerful city, which he called Ibatina. From stones cut and squared, he made its walls 70 cubits in height and 30 cubits in breadth. And in its truth, he set the towers 100 cubits in height. In fact, at its corners, each side was extended with a space of 20 feet. And he set its gates according to the heights of the towers, and he glorified it in its power, and with the force of its army, and the glory of its chariots. Thereafter, in the 12th year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar, the king of the Assyrians, who reigned in Nineveh, the great city, fought against Axophad and prevailed over him. And the great plain, which is called the Ragani, near the Euphrates and the Tigris and the Hydaspes, at the encampment of Erech, the king of the Elamians. Then the kingdom of Nebuchadnezzar was exalted, and his heart was elevated. And he sent all who dwelt in Syria and Damascus and Lebanon, and to the nations that are Carmel and Kedar, and to the inhabitants of the Galilee and the great plain of Esdron, and to all who were in Samaria, and across the river Jordan, even to Jerusalem, and all to the land of Jesse, until one passes through the borders of Ethiopia. To all these, Nebuchadnezzar, the king of the Assyrians, sent messengers, whom all with one mind contradicted, and they sent him back empty, and they rejected him without honor. Then King Nebuchadnezzar, being indignant against that land, swore by his throne and his kingdom that he would defend himself against all those regions. I always forget how close they are to, where was that? Ethiopia. Ethiopia is far away, but I guess.
Far away from where? Egypt or?
Yeah, I always think it's far away from Egypt and Israel, but I guess it's really just down. Keep going west on the map there from Egypt, and you'll get to Ethiopia. I think. So, I forget.
Yeah, I can kind of tell that this is like definitely an older passage. I mean, maybe not too old. Maybe not like, you know what I'm saying? Like I think it's Old Testament for sure.
Yeah.
Uh, just by how it sounds, because it's a little harder for me to follow along. I noticed. It's harder. Like you really have to just kind of focus a little more when you're reading the Old Testament, in my opinion,
All right. Yeah.
because there's lots of details and stuff.
Judith 2:1. In the 13th year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, on the 22nd day of the first month, the word went forth from the house of Nebuchadnezzar, king of the Assyrians, that he would defend himself. And he called all the native leaders and all the commanders and his officers at war. He met with them in his secret council, and he said to them that his thoughts were to subjugate all the earth to his authority. And when he was saying this, when saying pleased them all, King Nebuchadnezzar called Huphanes, the leader of his military. And he said to him, go out against all the kingdoms of the West, and against those in particular who showed contempt for my authority. Your eye must not spare any kingdom, and all fortified cities you will subjugate to me. Then Huphanes called the commanders and the magistrates of the army of the Assyrians, and he numbered the men for the expedition, just as the king instructed him, 120,000 foot soldiers and 12,000 archers on horseback. Caused his entire expeditionary force to go ahead with an innumerable multitude of camels and whatever was needed in abundance for the armies, and all the herds of cattle and the flocks of sheep, which could not be numbered. He appointed grain to be prepared from all of Syria as he passed through it. In fact, he took up the gold and silver from the house of the king in great abundance. And he set out, he and all the army, with the 4-horse chariots and horsemen and archers. They covered the face of the earth like locusts, and they had crossed the border of the Assyrians. He came to a great mountain of ants, which on the left of Sicilia. And he ascended to all their castles and prevailed all of their fortifications. Moreover, he broke open the renowned city of Motrus and pillaged all the sons of Tarshish and the sons of Ishmael, who were the opposite of the face of the desert and to the south of the land of Ceylon. And he crossed over the Euphrates and came into Mesopotamia. And he crushed all the lofty cities that were there, from the torrent of Maccabi, even until one passes through the sea. And he occupied its furthest regions from Sicilia way to the coastlands of Japheth, which are towards the south. And he carried away all the sons of Midian, and he plundered them in their wealthy regions. And all who resisted him, he slew with the edge of the sword. After these things, he descended to the plains of Damascus in the days of the harvest, and he set fire to the crops, and he caused all the trees and the vineyards to be cut down. And the fear of them fell upon the inhabitants of the land. I wonder if that's the same Nebuchadnezzar that we all know in the Bible.
Yeah.
It sounds like Nebuchadnezzar that Saddam wanted to be, because he wanted to take over the whole world.
Yeah, is that what he was trying to do?
That's what this Nebuchadnezzar said that he wanted to do. And Saddam claims that he was the reincarnated version of Nebuchadnezzar.
Really?
Yeah.
um, he really had a big army.
Right. Yeah. Well,
To
there
think like, can you imagine like that just like pop? Oh my gosh! Yeah, for sure.
innumerable multitude of camels. And,
Yeah, all the sheep unnumbered because there's so many. He was
yeah.
wealthy. So he sounded wealthy.
Really.
Yeah, and he was a king, right?
Yep. King Nebuchadnezzar. Say king of the Assyrians. So of Assyria.
King of Assyria.
Yeah. Judas 3:1. Then the kings, as well as the princes of the provinces, sent their emissaries from all the cities, from Syria, particularly Mesopotamia, and Syria Sobal, and Libya, as well as Sicilia. These upon coming to Holofernes said, "Let your indignation concerning us cease, for it is better for us to live in the service of Nebuchadnezzar, the great king, than to become subject to you, rather than to die.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we might suffer our condemnation into the annihilation of slavery. All of our cities, all of our possessions, all mountains and hills and fields and herds of cattle and flocks of sheep and goats and horses and camels and all of our resources and families are in your sight. Let all that we have be subject to your laws. We and our sons are your servants. Come to us, a peaceful master, and use our service just as it pleases you." Then he descended from the mountain with horsemen and great power, and he took charge of every city and every inhabitant of the land. And from all cities he took for himself auxiliaries, strong men, well chosen for war. And such dread laid upon these providences that the leading and honored inhabitants of the cities, together with the people, went out to meet him at his arrival. They received him with garlands and lamps, and they were led by choirs and cymbals and flutes.
Mm.
Yet, not even doing these things, they were able to mitigate the fiercity of his chest.
Oh,
For he both destroyed their cities and cut down their sacred groves.
so messed up.
All right. For
But they
king,
like tried everything. Like they tried to like, welcome him in and like just say, "Hey, I will literally be your servant or whatever it is." Part of the war. Oh man.
rather than die and get everything destroyed.
Yeah.
And doing that, for King Nebuchadnezzar had instructed him to exterminate all the gods of the earth, evidently so that he might alone be called the God by those nations which were able to
Mm-mm.
be subjugated by the power of Holofernes. But when he had passed through Syria Sobal and all of Apamea and all of Mesopotamia, he came to the Idumeans in the land of Gibeah and took their cities. And he sat there for 30 days, during which he instructed all the troops of his army to regroup. So, yeah, that sounds even more like Saddam wanting to be Nebuchadnezzar, that he wants to exterminate everybody so that he can be called God.
Yeah.
And craziness, of course.
Yeah. To think that like he was so prideful that he didn't even like consider that the God of the universe could knock him out.
All right.
Like he was just on a mission and just really, wow, to think somebody, it's too
Looks
bad.
like he might start to learn better here in Judas 4.
Okay.
The Master Yahuwah starts coming in.
All right.
Then, upon hearing these things, the sons of Israel, who dwelt in the land of Judah, were very afraid before his face. Trembling and honor invaded their senses, lest he should do the same thing to Jerusalem and to the temple of the Master Yahuwah, in which he had done to other cities and their temples. And they sent into all of Samaria, and by indirect route even to Jericho. They seized in advance all the tops of the mountains, and they surrounded their villages with walls, and they gathered together grain in preparation for the fight. And then Elicham the priest wrote to all who were opposed to Esdron, which is opposite the face of the great plain near Dothan, and to all whom were able to reach through a passable way, that they should hold ascent of the mountain through which there might be any passage to reach Jerusalem, and they should keep watch where the passage was narrow, whenever possible, between the mountains. And the sons of Israel did just as Elachim, the priest of the Master Yahuwah, had appointed them. And all the people cried out to the Master Yahuwah with great urgency, and they humbled their souls with fastings and prayers, both they and their wives. And the priests clothed themselves with haircloths, and they prostrated the little children opposite of the face of the temple. They put some kind of haircloths on, and then they have the kids prostrated, so they're laying down the opposite of the face of the temple of the Master Yahuwah. And they covered the altar of the Master Yahuwah with haircloth. I wonder if that's the one that's made out of the camel hair.
Could be.
Interesting haircloth. And they cried out to the Master Yahuwah, Elohim of Israel, with one accord, lest their children should be given over as prey, and their wives into distribution, and their cities into extermination, and their set apart holy things into defilement, so that they might not become the disgrace of the Gentiles. Then Elachim, the high priest of the Master Yahuwah, traveled all around Israel, and he was talking to them, saying, know that the Master Yahuwah will heed your prayers. If you continue to preserve in fasting and prayers in the sight of the Master Yahuwah, recall that Moses, the servant of the Master Yahuwah, overcame Amalek, who trusted in his own strength and his own power and his army, and his bronze shields and his swift chariots and his horsemen. He overcame him not by fighting with iron, but pleading with the set apart holy prayers. So it will be with all the enemies of Israel, if you persevere in this work that you have begun.
Oh, I was going to say that this kind of also reminds me about when Esther. It was Esther who, when they were going to be attacked, the annihilation of the Jews, and she told everyone to fast. Like how powerful fasting really is, and they're like, it sounds like right here he's trying to get them to fast so that way they can, they're more powerful. Their prayers are more powerful. I don't know what that is, but I think that's what it is, right?
Yeah, well, I think with the fasting, the way I kind of understand, and then it works with it too, is that you're putting your faith in God, that you don't need that food and substance, that He's providing to you supernaturally.
Yeah,
You're putting that kind of faith into it. Like,
nope,
I don't need to go find things for my flesh. I will have God just provide for my flesh.
I really got to start fasting because I know that God wants us to fast.
Yeah, I was just thinking when I was reading this, I wonder if that's another reason they don't bring Judith up as much, because they seem to like really silence a lot of fasting and what it can do for you. Therefore, by this exhortation and this prayer to the Master Yahuwah, they continued in the sight of the Master Yahuwah, so that those who offered whole burnt offerings to the Master Yahuwah offered sacrifices to the Master Yahuwah, girdled with haircloths, and there were ashes upon their heads. And they all begged Elohim with their whole heart that he would visit the people of Israel.
That's another thing that they also did in Esther. It was actually Malachi. Who was it? Was Malachi that he sat in sackcloth and he had ashes on his forehead because he knew that literally the Jews were in Esther's hands and he was in grief. So I think that's also something that's really important. Like, why don't we do that anymore? Is it just because we have Jesus or what? Why don't we, like, when we're in grief and we need something to happen, like, why don't we just put on some ash?
All right. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how that one all ends up going with that.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I know like right now they're even Israel, I don't think Israel even does it because that's why they're trying to do the red heifer.
Oh,
Because you're supposed to burn that red heifer and then collect those ashes and use them for
okay.
purification.
Oh,
And that's where I think all the ash like that comes from, because
wow.
that's supposed to anoint the temple priests and supposed to do the temple stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm not very Jewish, but the Jews are working without that to the best they can. That's one of
Oh,
the reasons
okay.
they want to try to get the ashes again and start doing that again so they
Oh, good.
get purifying things, get the third temple built, and start doing sacrifices again.
Yeah.
Which to me, I would think in kind of a supernatural biblical God's plan kind of thing that would be a reason that God gets upset too. It's like, hey, we got a sacrifice, we got the sacrifice made for you, and now you're back to sacrificing.
Oh, you mean like Jesus being
Yeah,
our sacrifice? Oh, I see. So you're saying that the red heifer is like, like a freaking, it's like a slap in God's face.
yeah, because to my understanding, it was like the original blood sacrifice and what we needed,
Oh, yeah.
which, and technically, when the only thing I found about not having like incense or burning incense, even though I think that that's a good thing because it stimulates your mind and kind of gets you in that kind of thing, because and then those brain processes and stuff, just like any other smells, activate things in your brain too,
Yeah.
especially if they're familiar ones that you know of and they're comfortable things and stuff like that
Mm-hmm.
you would just instantly know when you came to the temple and you smelled the cannabis and frankincense burning. You would relate to, hey, this is what I think of when I'm at temple. And
Yeah, yeah, that makes
all the different
sense.
minds.
Yeah, smells really do carry memory like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even though Jesus Christ is also the sweet fragrance too. So
Mhm.
is it
Yeah.
all completely ended with Christ, or are we supposed to still burn it in the temple or burn it where we're
Yeah. I mean, I guess like the fragrance. I mean, there was even a fragrance in the beginning, like when the two brothers, who was it, uh Cain and Abel, and it was the fragrance of the first crop, right? Is that, no? Was it that or something else? I can't remember. Um, but was that a sacrifice? I'm just trying to think. Like,
they, they
is
did do their sacrifice with the first
okay?
of the
So
crop.
maybe I don't know.
I don't remember if anyone burned anything like that or not.
I mean, I think about, like, also like about how, like, we can still offer up, like, maybe like our offering as far as like crying and and wringing our heart out and because of our sin, and just like and putting our life at the altar, and putting like literally like putting ourselves at the altar and letting ourselves be um used by God. And I feel like maybe that could be some type of an aroma for him. maybe. I don't know, because it really is like an offering.
So I know we are supposed to give like our bits of
Yeah,
stuff, the first fruits and the
yeah,
uh, your first bit of your money. You're supposed to give your tithe and to God, give that stuff. This is
yeah.
kind of a similar
So
way.
maybe the incense is just like I'm remembering you, Lord. Like this is, like this is our time together. This is, I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't be an issue for something like that, but killing a heifer is totally different.
Right? Yeah.
That's like on a totally different level, and that's real disrespectful. And I know they don't really know better, but they've probably been told better. And I just
Uh,
pray that we got to pray that.
that's where the
Is it?
thing is debatable too. Are they resisting or what are they doing? Because we have the Masonic Jews that have realized that this was all prophecy with Jesus Christ and he's the sacrifice.
Yeah.
Like, why are they going back? Why are some of these like, hey, we need to have a sacrifice? And that's where I think God will be like, hey, you guys aren't paying attention. Like,
Right.
sacrifice has stopped, blood sacrifice was done, and you guys are going like, nah, let's go back to it.
Yep.
You guys just aren't paying attention that Christ came and that this was taken care of and the blood sacrifices.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's like maybe, well, you know what? You really think about it, like, because this is all prophecy that's happening. So this was already written about. So like it was like this was what was supposed to happen. And even though it is disrespectful to the Lord, I don't know. Get a little deep there, but yeah.
Well, I think that it is made for that to bring in everything and kind of
Yeah.
wrap up the story that he has
Right.
for us currently.
Yeah.
I could
It's
see
gonna
that.
be so cool just to know the new story. Like we don't know what's gonna be, what's gonna happen. Like God is like Jesus is preparing a way, preparing a home for us, and like a mansion, and there's gonna be enough room for everyone. I just kind of think like it's like this. If the Bible is this awesome, how awesome is it gonna be when sin is removed from the earth? Hallelujah.
All right. And then the big thing is with that third temple too, is when they start doing those sacrifices, that's when the Antichrist stirs up trouble there. And
Mhm.
then he ends up giving the peace for 3.5 years, but then ends up taking the temple and then saying he's God. So
Yeah.
even the more of the insult the rest of the way.
Mhm.
God's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
we
I do know that God's wrath is going to be poured out on people in judgment. So everybody has free will, and they can choose, which way they want to go. And God, and I even read, actually, I don't know where it was, maybe James or something. It said that God will reveal Himself to everyone. Everyone will have a chance to you know know who He is, or like have an encounter with Him. And so I don't know.
And Judith 5:1, it was reported to Holofernes, the leader of the military and the Assyrians, that the sons of Israel were preparing themselves to resist, and also that they had closed the mountain passes. He was enraged with extreme fury and great indignation, and he called together all the leaders of Moab and the leaders of Ammon, and said to them, tell me who this people may be and who obstructed the mountains, and which are their cities, and what kind and how many, and then what may be their power, and what may be their number, and who is the king over their military, and why of these more than all who dwell in the east shown contempt for us and have not gone out to meet us, so that they may receive us with peace. Interesting, because I think that I thought Moab was like over in the China area too.
Hmm.
And he says everybody in the east has gotten it. So I wonder how far that's even going.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the same one that relates to the army and the end that comes all the way over, like from Jerusalem, like that. And I've heard some say that that's China.
Oh, yep, I've heard that too.
It's,
From the east and from the west or something. I don't know. But supposed to be two different directions it's coming.
yeah, everybody's supposed to surround Israel at that
Yeah.
time, or Christ has to come and take care of it.
Yeah.
Then Archor, commander of all the sons of Ammon, said, responding, If you would deign to listen, my master, I will tell you the truth in your sight about this people who dwell on the mountains, and not a false word will go from my mouth. This people is from the progeny of the Chaldeans. These dwelt first in Mesopotamia because they were not willing to follow the gods of their fathers, who were in the land of the Chaldeans. And so, forsaking the ceremonies of their fathers, which were multitudes of God, they worshipped one Elohim of heaven, who was instructed to them to go forth from that place and to dwell in Canaan. And then when famine covered the whole land, they went into Egypt. And there, through 400 years, they were so multiplied that the army of them could not be numbered. Then when the kings of Egypt oppressed them, they also subjugated them to labor with clay, brick, and the building of his cities. They cried out to their Elohim, and he struck the entire land of Egypt with various plagues.
Oh.
When the Egyptians had cast them away from them, the plagues had ceased from them, and they were willing to seize them again and recall them to servitude. The Elohim of heaven opened up the sea as they
Whoa.
so that the waters were made to stay firm like a wall on either side. And they walked across them from the bottom of the sea and passed through with dry feet. In that place, when an innumerable army of the Egyptians pursued after them, they were so overwhelmed with the waters that not one remained to report with posterity what happened. In truth, going forth from the Red Sea, they occupied the deserts of Mount Sinai, which man could never dwell, nor a son of man take rest. In that bitter place, bitter fountains became sweet for them to drink, and through 40 years they had continued to receive provisions from heaven, and through they had all entered without bow and arrow, and without shield and sword. Their Elohim fought on their behalf and was victorious. And there was no one who could attack these people, except for when they withdrew from the worship of their master, Yahuwah the Elohim. But as often as they worshipped any other except for their Elohim, they were delivered to plunder, and into the sword and the reproach. But often as they were repentant for having withdrawn from the worship of Elohim, the Elohim of heaven gave them power to resist. And indeed, they were overthrown the king of the Canaanites, and the Jebusites, and the Pezerites, and the Hittites, and the Hivites, and the Amorites, and all the powerful ones of Heshbon, and these same possessed their lands and their cities. And as long as they did not sin in the sight of Elohim, it was well with them, for their Elohim hates iniquity. And then some years ago, when they had withdrawn from what Elohim had given them to walk, they were destroyed in battles by many nations, and by very many of them were led into captive into a land that was not their own. But more recently, turning to the Master Yahuwah, their Elohim, from the desperation of which they had been scattered, they have united and ascended all into these mountains, and they again possess Jerusalem, where their set apart holy things are. Therefore, now, my master, inquire if there may be any iniquity of theirs in the sight of the Elohim. If so, let us ascend to them, because their Elohim will surely deliver them to you, and they will be subjugated under your yoke or power. But if in truth There may be no offenses to this people before their Elohim will not be able to resist them. Their Elohim will defend them, and we will become a disgrace to the whole earth. And it happened when Echor had ceased to speak these words, all the great men of Hophanes were angry, and they intended to execute him, saying to one another, "Who is this that says the sons of Israel were able to resist the king Nebuchadnezzar and his armies? Unarmed men without strength and without skill in the art of fighting? Therefore, so Arbiter may know that he has failed us, let us ascend the mountain. And then when the most powerful among them have been taken, then with them he will be impaled with the sword. So every people know that Nebuchadnezzar is the God of the earth, and no other except for him." Judith 6:1. But when they had ceased speaking, it happened that Holofernes, being very indigent, said to Achor, "Because you have prophesied this to us, saying that the people of Israel may be defended by their Elohim, so not to reveal to you as there is no Elohim except for Nebuchadnezzar. When we will have struck them with as one man, you will pass away with them by the sword of the Assyrians, and all Israel will perish into perdition with you. And you will be shown that Nebuchadnezzar is the master of the whole earth. And then the sword of the army will pass through your side, and being stabbed, you will fall among the wounded of Israel, and you will breathe no longer when you have been destroyed with them. And furthermore, if you consider your prophecy to be true, do not let your countenance fail, and let the paleness that has taken hold of your face depart from you. If you claim that these words cannot be fulfilled, but so that you may know that you will experience these things together with them, behold, from this hour you'll be associated with their people, so that when they receive their punishment that they receive from my sword, you'll fall under the same vengeance." Then Holofernes instructed his servants to apprehend Achor and lead him through Bethula and deliver him into the lands and the hands of Israel. And taking him, the servants of Holofernes traveled to the plains. But when they approached close to the mountains, the slingers of stones went forth against them. Then, diverting by the side of the mountain, they tied Achor, hands and feet, to a tree. So they abandoned him, bound with ropes, and they returned to their master. Therefore, the sons of Israel, descending from Bethula, came to him. Releasing him, they brought him to Bethula. And so, standing with him in the midst of the people, they interrogated him to what caused the Assyrians to abandon him bound. In those days, the rulers of that place were Uzzah, the son of Micah, the tribe of Simeon, and Cherebus, also called Gosnell. Judith 6:12. And so in the midst of the elders, in the sight of everyone, Achor explained all that he had said in reply to the questioning of Holofernes, and what matter of the people of Holofernes wanted to have him killed because of this word, and how Holofernes himself, being angry, had ordered him to be handed over to the Israelites, for this reason, that when he would prevail over the sons of Israel, he would also command Achor himself to be executed by diverse torments, because he had said that the Elohim of the heavens is their defender. And when Achor had declared all of these things, all of the people fell on their faces, adoring the Master Yahuwah, and communing together with mourning and weeping, and they poured out their prayers with one mind to the Master Yahuwah, saying, "O Master Yahuwah, Elohim of heaven and earth, behold their arrogance and their guise upon humility, and attend to the face of your set apart holy ones, and revealed that you do not abandon those who rely on you, and those who rely on themselves and who glory in their strength you humble. And so, when their weeping was ended, and the prayer of the people through the entire day was completed, they consoled Archor, saying, the Elohim of our fathers, through your power you predicted, will give this to you in return, that you instead see the destruction of them. Truly, when the Master Yahuwah, our Elohim, will give us the freedom to his servants, may Elohim be with you in our midst. So just that as it pleases you, everyone who is with you may keep company with us. Then Uzziah, after the council was ended, received him to his own house and made him a great supper. And the elders were invited together, and they refreshed themselves at the completion of their fast. In truth, after this, all the people were called together, and they prayed through the entire night with the assembly, petitioning help from the Elohim of Israel. I'll take it off there. I think that's a good spot. We'll just put 1 to 6. Looks like we lost Victoria, but that's usually happens to you when it's this long and you're on your phone, unfortunately. But there's always recordings to watch. We've got all these that if anybody missed them, we've got 42 more episodes out there. This is episode 43. I thank everyone who came through and listened to the end, who learned more in Judith and how this goes with her and how important it's going to be as Judith comes in and helps Israel. Thank you, Almighty God, for those who got to learn about your story of Judith and got to hear this first part of it. May they be interested in seeking out your word and the way that you help people. May they feel encouragement of you helping Israel and know that if they put their trust in you, you will save them also. Thank you for that grace and that power that you give us with that faith. And bless everyone who wants to indulge in it as well and honor you. Amen. Thanks for attending and have a blessed day. Take care.